Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another Dokkan battle video, and finally we are hopping back into another episode of rebuilding the assets. I'm so excited to come back to this series. Let me adjust the camera a little bit, bro. I'm not getting that. Hello. See, I wanna be looking at you, bro. We have not done this series in a long time. I do apologize about that, since it does take a little bit while to make like one of these episodes more than it does some other content. It's been a little bit more difficult when I was busy, which aka the 6-year anniversary. So now that things have winded down a little bit, I will probably return to making these. I might actually go back and do some 6th anniversary characters that I didn't get to do on their initial run, but we are going to be doing Goten, as you can see on the screen here. This little boy is just look at him. He's my son. I love him so much with all my heart. Who couldn't love that face? So that's what we're going to be recreating today. We're going to be rebuilding that set of assets, literally just for fun. Funny enough, the Trunks scene where his face is kind of close up is already one piece, but Goten's is not. So let's go ahead and get started here. I already have all of our pieces separated here. I basically just cropped them out from the sheets that I usually take a look at. We are going to be using Goten's face here as the base, and we're just going to kind of go from there. We're going to figure out how we want to do this as we go through. We're going to add in all of the different pieces and all the different layers. So let's do that first. I also forgot, because I didn't do this the normal way that I did it, which is, just transferring over from the initial piece that I cut, and I actually created whole new images. I'm going to have to crop the individual pieces that are stuck together here from these different pieces here, from these different sheets. So not too big of a deal, but let's go ahead and just get our baseline started. If anything, we will probably have to expand the canvas a little bit more, the canvas a little bit more. But for now, let's go ahead and get things adjusted how we want. So I do actually have the image of Goten here on the sidebar. I don't know if you will be able to see that, unless I'll give you a little a little peek in frame, but I'm just gonna have it on the side here so I can kind of have a little bit of a reference point. It definitely looks like that his head is too big for this particular body piece, that meaning that the body is actually a little bit too small for him, because if we take a look at the actual image here, right, you can see that it sort of lines up where the end of his head goes like right there, right? And that is almost where we are there, but it's definitely not big enough. So we could go smaller on Goten's head, but I think for the sake of things, we'll actually go a little bit bigger here on this. Also, we can also do, I guess, since we have this available to us, and we can also just pull it over our current piece of work, we can literally just crop it and then call it good, and then just stick it to the side. Nice. All right, we'll have to adjust that when we get to our layers later, but let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. This is obviously going to be eyeballing it. If you are unfamiliar to this series, basically, I'm not putting it over the original assets or anything like that. I kind of like to sort of eyeball it on purpose, because then that way it is a little bit more interesting for me in terms of the final result, because then it's like, oh, well, how close can I get it to the original by just looking at it? As well, I thought this was something interesting too. I was kind of surprised that this is the way that they actually did this, but it turns out that this mouthpiece is literally just over the face, like this. Obviously that looks a little bit weird. Hi, I'm Goten. But in this scene, right, it is literally just his mouth opening, and then it's going to his mouth close like this to simulate lip flaps. So I thought it was really interesting that they literally just layer the mouth over, because the other thing is too, right, if we look at it like this, you can see that there's a little bit of a shadow for the chin or the bottom of his lip. But if we take a look at here, there's none of that, which would be either a separate asset or would be attached to the mouth. So they literally just had the mouth layer over it, which I mean, I guess is pretty big brain, all things considered, but it's still a little bit weird. We have to try and get this adjusted perfectly, by the way. The other thing that's really going to stink about this is I don't know if the mouth is too big for the face or not. That is also something we're going to have to adjust. Let's actually not show the transform controls for that, because it's going to look really awkward unless it's like almost perfect. Actually, right there looks pretty good. I'll do some minor adjustments later, but for now we'll call that good. Okay, so let me adjust the actual body piece here, and then we'll expand a little bit. Okay, so funny enough, after doing this for a little while, I actually think that I'm going the wrong way. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller, because the issue I'm running into, right, is that you can see that the edge right here kind of lines up with his ear, and there's a little bit of a shadow right here, which would be the shadow right there, right? And oh my gosh, that looks so cursed with the long neck. And the edge of his face just about goes to this little flap of the clothing here. And with how big this is, it doesn't really seem like there's a way that I can get it so that it kind of goes to the ear like this. There's a little bit of that showing, and it also cuts off right there. So I'm going to try and make it a little bit smaller, and we'll see how we go. Okay, so I think I got it where I want it. His head actually turns out to be a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, but that looks about right in terms of spacing with the comparison that I made before, kind of using the positioning of the shoulders to my advantage here. I guess his head looks fine. It's not like... I don't think it's too big. I guess we'll kind of have to see once we get the body on there. That'll be the telling signs of this. So the interesting thing as well is that technically this render does actually go down all the way to his pants. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have to adjust that. Look at the he looks so goofy, bro. This does go down to his pants, but obviously it kind of cuts off there. Let's also make our canvas a little bit bigger, because we're obviously going to need some more workspace to be able to fit my man in here. It's not going to matter for the final product anyway, but obviously we want this to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's go ahead. What do we want to do here? Let's work on the belt, I guess, because that's easy to do. No, let's save the pants all for one thing. Let's go ahead and do the arms first, because I feel like that'll be pretty decently easy. For now, we're going to chuck this whole image over here. And let's go ahead and move the arm pieces up to the top. Luckily, that one is all by itself. And this one, we are going to have to cut out from the actual piece here. I know that there is a easier way to do this than the way that I do it, but I'm going to be honest. I don't remember, and I'm not going to look it up on the fly when I could do it faster. The not as effective way of doing it here. Because now, what we should have is we should have this piece separated, yeah. So then on this one, we can literally just get rid of it. Easy peasy. Okay. So for his arms then, his arms obviously line up under the gi. And how do we want to do this? So this would be the sleeves. This one is this sleeve, and this one is this sleeve here. So let's get those just about where we want it. That's probably going to be the hardest thing, honestly, when we go to adjust this for the size. That is going to be really difficult. And also, I actually only see one arm piece here, which looks to be this one. Oh, wow. Okay, that's actually lining up fairly well. And then this one will, well, oh, I see. The other one is here. Okay, perfect. This obviously will have to line up a little bit better, but that's already shaping up to be pretty decent. So let me go ahead and adjust the size a little bit, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I haven't actually done the final adjustments for this yet, but I just wanted to show you what we're kind of going for here with this. As you can see, we have these different asset pieces already pasted down for us. Very interesting stuff here. Oh, that's horrifying. Very interesting stuff, I will say, when it comes to learning about how the assets work from a technical perspective, because when it comes to this, right, it is literally just layering a bunch of images over each other, which is not too complicated to do, I guess, but for this hand piece, right, like when we just cut back to this, you probably didn't even notice that this was a separate piece, but that's how they get this to move, right? They literally just share the same color, and then they just attach it, so it's just kind of an optical illusion that it looks like it's connected to his body, right? Of course, we're obviously going to put the hand a little bit closer down here, so it looks a little bit closer to this original reference image that we're using here. But nonetheless, I still wanted to display this point that it's really cool the way that they're able to just kind of use these PNGs to make it look animated, and it is animated like in the traditional sense of the word, but I think you know what I'm getting at. Anyway, I'm gonna make the adjustments to this now. Okay, so what I did was I completed the arm assembly here. There was a couple of things that I noticed. For one, it did look like that my arm was a little bit too high up on Goten's shoulder here, so I did decide to try and move that out a little bit. The other thing that I did notice that was a little bit of a an oof, actually, that was an asset that I kind of forgot to get because I actually didn't even notice it the first time that I was grabbing all of the pieces for this. If we take a look at the actual thing, I know it's very zoomed in right now because I was using the arms for reference, but there is a little piece right there that is the back of his gi. What I am planning on doing for that, because I think his arms are okay, I might end up adjusting the final size of them, but honestly, they kind of turned out pretty alright in terms of the size. I do think that they are like a little bit small, but to be fair, Goten's arms are already pretty small as it is. He is obviously a pretty small character. I mean, he is literally a kid. So I guess, you know, it looks okay, I think. I might make them a little bit bigger overall, but in like comparison to where everything lies on his actual outfit, it looks pretty close to me. There are a couple of things that I'm noticing as I'm taking a more detailed look at this now. Like we have right here, right? There's obviously a lot of space between this spike that's a little bit of a shadow here, and obviously the little bit of lighter blue here, and as you can see on my version, that is a lot closer. There's also a lot more space here. The only problem with me doing it on mine, is that obviously I have the whole assembly selected right now, is that this zooms out. So what I would probably have to do would be adjust it like this to get the proper spacing that I want. Actually, funny enough, that actually turned out pretty good, all things considered. I will definitely edit that a little bit more in the long run though, but I think for now it's fine. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be our best attempt at recreating this. So let's go ahead now. Let's actually work on the legs. This is obviously going to be a little bit of a oof in terms of the size of the legs, but thankfully with the belt here, this shouldn't be too bad because it is already a pretty big piece as it is. This one will also be nice. Funny enough, this almost kind of reminds me of my figure videos in a weird kind of way, because this almost reminds me of like the way that two pieces of a figure separate and, well, I guess in this case more so combine into one piece, right? So let's go ahead and actually flip the belts. It would be clockwise, yes, or counterclockwise rather. Obviously we're gonna have to edit that a little bit. Let's actually just slap that up to the top there. And if we take a look at our reference image, you can see that Goten's belt just kind of goes over his gi. There's even a little bit of a section here. If we take a little bit of a zoom in here, this little arc right here is clearly meant for this piece to kind of sit there. So this is cool because it literally just covers up what is currently there, right? Let's also see where, so this goes like to about the middle. This is definitely going to have to be a little bit bigger. This is also very interesting because this is actually the beginning of this and not actually the knot, which is kind of what I thought it was, but I guess not. Also, does this need to be smaller? This is going to be interesting to adjust because it does capture all of this like detail here. So I would think that it would look more like here, but how does it get all that? Maybe it needs to be tilted a little bit. I guess that would probably make sense, huh? We obviously want this to look as natural as possible. Yeah, okay, well that's looking a little bit better in terms of the left side over here. Obviously the right side is kind of what we're gonna have to get a little bit finicky with. Let me go ahead and do some minor adjustments on this, and then we will come back. Okay, so after examining this a little bit more, I actually think that the gi goes over this because there's a little bit of edge of fabric that goes over the belt. It's not too much. Sorry, actually, I gotta put that back over there. Whoopsie! It's not too much, but it is definitely substantial enough where it definitely shows. So I think we're gonna try zooming out a little bit, and we are going to put the belt under the clothes because I did actually look and there wasn't any specific assets for the belt being, or like a specific like clothing asset that would go above the belt here. So I assume that it is literally just going over it. As well, I did line up, by the way, this piece right here to our belt. So we also have that going on now. So this should be the whole belt piece. Let's move this under the body. Yes, that actually is already fitting a lot better. I don't know why I thought it was the other way, but we might also have to make this a little bit smaller to actually get it to fit around Goten's form, and also maybe tilt it a little bit, because I still think that we're gonna have to tilt it if we wanted to fit how the game has it, which we're still not there yet in terms of size. I keep looking on the sidebar here for the sake of our comparison. Yeah, we definitely need to tilt it a little bit because it's like it's almost closer by like doing it that, which I guess makes sense too, because obviously with the gi type that Goten and I guess by proxy Goku wear, it would make sense that they obviously have a little bit of baggy clothing over what they wear, or well, I guess over their belt. There is still a lot of gray though that shows here, so I'm almost thinking that it's like tilted a little bit more, because there's still quite a bit of gray in between the edge of the clothing here and his actual gi, right? So maybe we need to make it a little bit bigger. I'll do some minor adjustments here, and then we will actually fix that shoulder problem. Okay, so we're gonna keep it like this for now. I think it looks fine. It's not exactly how I would want it. If we take a look at our reference image here, we can see that it lines up pretty decently there, but the space between the belt and the clothing is a little bit more on there, but I can't really get it to work how I want it to. Something that I did notice that was interesting though, that I did use for a little bit of spacing, was that here on the actual like spike, right, that is kind of representing the edge of the knot, that actually lines up with this spike right here for the shading. So that is pretty cool, and that was something that I was able to use for that. So not too bad. I know what, like when we zoom out, right, like you won't even be able to tell, you know what I mean? And obviously if you're looking at this normally, you probably won't even be able to tell unless I told you that. Let's also fix real quick the issue with the shoulder piece. So we're actually going to do a little bit of cheating for this one, because I don't actually know what the exact shoulder piece asset is. And besides, for finding an asset that tiny, it would take a long time, and it's not worth it. And in terms of rebuilding the assets, we can actually do this a lot easier. So we are actually going to take this piece right here, which is probably just another asset from something else. A Goten leg from like kicking or punching or something like that. And we are literally just going to slap it right here. We're getting a little bit of darkness going on. We probably don't want, do we want the darker dark or do we want the lighter dark? Probably a little bit of the lighter dark. That matches a little bit more with the piece. And then we literally just go like this. Obviously we're gonna have to do a little bit of cropping, which isn't a big deal, but this is just an easy way to kind of fix this problem without having to go out of our way to kind of make it harder for ourselves, right? It is literally just a big piece of fabric. I'm trying to make sure that I have it at least like semi close to what the original looks like. Yes, that's good right about there. Okay, so let's go here, I guess. What we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on that. And we are going to shave off some pixels here. Let's actually make this just like, we'll go like 4 pixels. That's fine. And then we'll also go pencil mode. Okay, so we can get rid of all that. And now, obviously, once we get rid of all the excess, it will line up just like about there. Perfect. We might actually shave a little bit off of Goten's shoulder too, because like as you can see there's a little bit of a point, right? But as it stands right now, that looks fine. Like you literally wouldn't even be able to tell the difference on that. But that corner is annoying me, so let's actually fix that. I believe the body is here. Yes, perfect. Okay. So that would be like what? This pixel right here? Make it a little bit like, yeah, okay. Just make it look a little bit more natural is kind of what we're going for here. Let's also just make sure that there's nothing crazy peeking out. Yeah, no, looks good. Okay. So cool. Now we have the shoulder piece complete. So that literally fixes that problem right there. Now it is just the legs and we are done. Bada bing. Alright, perfect. It looks so goofy, bro, with the tiny legs. Let's actually adjust this properly here. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult because unfortunately in the essay it doesn't really extend that far. Though one thing that we can use a little bit for reference here is that the edge actually does line up with the edge here. And this goes out a little bit past the edge of the, what do you call it, the knot, I guess? This does also kind of just catch the edge of the pants here, because obviously there's a little bit of that shadow that you can see. And of course, if we want that effect where we want it to be a little bit of puffy pants, we're going to have to make it a little bit bigger. The only thing is, that is really unfortunate about this process is that even though these assets are obviously pretty clean, because I am making them bigger and smaller, they might not look as good as they do in game with the essays. I know it's kind of ironic considering that, you know, most of the time in the game the animation looks kind of stinky in terms of the asset quality, but in this case, because obviously I was having to make like these minor adjustments and such, it's not going to be perfect. But like I said in the beginning, and like I say in these Rebuilding the Asset series, you know, it isn't meant to be perfect. It's just meant to be, you know, the recreation to the best of my ability, getting me another chance or more chances to just use Photoshop for fun because I just kind of, well, I enjoy it, bro. Okay, I think we are pretty much good there. That looks just about the reference image. Unfortunately, our YouTube playback bar there is kind of doing us a little bit dirty. But like you can definitely see the quality of these pants, right? To the quality of the top half of the shirt. To be fair to Bandai's credit, obviously for them, they're thinking ahead because you can't really see this. It zooms in so quickly on this section anyway that it's not really a big deal. Let's just make sure that his mouth is in the right place. I just want to make sure that it looks like about there. I would say yeah, because it looks like that corner of his mouth lines up with this little motion line right there. It could maybe be down like 1. Is it gonna? There we go. It could maybe be down like 1 there. The nice thing about Photoshop too is that you can get rid of the transform controls. So yeah, that I think looks a little bit closer. Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think right there looks good. Okay, so let's zoom out and let's actually see our final product, and that actually turned out really, really good. I will say I do think his hand did turn out a little bit small, but I think I'm going to call this complete for now because I do actually like the final product. And then the problem is, like, when I get into trying to fix the minor details, it never works out because then I end up messing up something else. So I think, though, for what it is and how simple of a rebuild this was, there was a couple of parts that actually did kind of give me a little bit of complications, but of course that's kind of what I expect from the series because it's always interesting to see what Dokkan unintentionally throws at me with these things. And yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. I definitely am going to do another rebuilding the assets video soon. But if you would like to download the full PNG of the good boy right here, that will be in the link in the description below to that tweet. Of course, I'll put it in an Imgur link, so then that way you can get the full high quality image. And we are also going to crop this down so it is literally just the size of the image proper, so we don't have to worry about any specific shenanigans here. Also, probably pump it through the waifu, which of course makes images HD. You could also do the same if you're planning on using this for a thumbnail or something like that. But yeah, turned out very good. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch you in the next one. Of course, also, before I go, definitely let me know if there is any particular essay asset that you would like me to rebuild, whether that is from the anniversary or it's from Goten and Trunks or something like that. Definitely let me know. Anyway, though, that's going to do for me. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.